In the previous section, you had the opportunity to consider some key issues relevant to recording user data. We did this by giving you extracts from the interview data, as well as giving you a chance to hear about the questionnaire survey data. This part of the presentation focuses on using serious games as an assessment tool and recording play moves with the view of assessing player competencies. In the next 4 slides, you will hear the views from experts as well as trainees about using serious games as an assessment tool.
I think within the field of medicine you have a care of duty. You've got to identify these issues, and if somebody's really failing these kind of tests when you'd expect them to know it, and that does need flagging up. You can't just ignore it.
Okay.
And there's a difference between book learning and hand-on learning, isn't there?
So you think that we could use the play data to gain play traces to pull people into sort of...
Well, they can't actually go into... You can't put on real patients in real wards.
Until they get this...
Until you've got a fairly certain they can know what they're doing.
Okay.
I think the very word game sort of implies that you're offering them an opportunity to engage with the scenario and see what happens with different outcomes.
Yes.
In which case, of course, that's very different from the exam.
Do you think the serious games have the potential to identify whether a student who's playing the game is safe for practice or not? There are safety issues or competence issues.
Well, this goes in a different area, so using the serious game as an assessment tool. So this is possible, it can be done, if the game has been designed for these purposes, and there are situations in which there are games that have been designed for these purposes, and we have, for example, developed a serious game for police training of the Academy of Dubai, and they've used this score at the end to see whether or not the person had the sufficient understanding, so as an examination of the topic, and if that was to be or further training was necessary. Now obviously the player was aware that there was a test, so as such yes, but we go in a different area, so it's not just playing for playing, it's playing for assessment.
So you think there's potential for that in education?
Yes, I think it is a potential there. It can be used as an assessment tool because it gives you a situation in context. And of course, this should not be just on its own. And I would say that this should be in line with the practice of the school that is adopting the game.
Oh, I think it'd be fine to record it for development of skills. Yeah. But I don't think recording it to identify poor practice is a very good idea, because at the end of the day, the title is game. And people might treat it as a game, and if you then identify poor practice, there might be absolutely nothing wrong with their practice, they might just be messing about.
It might also be that people use it as because it has the label game, you might go through and kind of complete the scenario and do everything really well and think, oh, I'll do it again, because what if I'd done this at this particular stage, what would have gone wrong, how would they have deteriorated, but because it's a game, I can go back and do that.
Even though there was skepticism from student doctors about using serious games as an assessment tool, they did recognize serious games as a useful tool for self-assessment of learning and for bridging the transition to practice. It would be perfect to integrate these games into our problem-based learning sessions, especially when it is not always possible to find patients to demonstrate a condition. I think these games should be a prerequisite to starting on simulations, and they are important because we don't always get to see patients with all the required conditions within the placement time.
Whereas using it, I think, to analyse self-learning of things, I think is appropriate, because it's that feedback thing again. So you're allowing yourself to develop by yourself rather than someone having to tell you to.
Once you turn it into any sort of picking up bad practice, you turn it into an examination, basically. And once you do that, it's not a learning resource; it's a
It's another resource.
People won't use it.
People, if it was a way to pick up bad practice,
People would do it.
I wouldn't do it.
You lose the idea of it being a game.
You lose the